What is up, car addicts? I was very reluctant to make an off-road test for this vehicle, but many of you asked me and well, here we are. Welcome to the off-road capability testing for the Pegassi Toros. This is an update to my off-road capability testing series where I have tested the majority of off-road capable vehicles in GTA 5 online. I will leave the link to a playlist down below in the pinned comment where you will find all the other vehicles I have done already so that you can compare. Please keep in mind that this vehicle is in the SUVs class, just like the XLS, even though they are both somewhat off-road capable. But as requested by you guys, I still test them, even though they are in the SUVs class, so that you can compare the raw data between them and other vehicles. Before we start, if you have any questions as to how each obstacle is scored, please refer to the tutorial video, which is linked at the top of the description and pinned comment. Also, remember that the most updated spreadsheet with all of the auto capability scores for vehicles I have tested so far will be linked in the description as well, along with other brands. The following points for each obstacle will be out of 10 possible points. Again, if you have any questions as to how each obstacle is scored in full detail, please refer to the tutorial video, which is linked at the top of the description. Starting off with the incline test from a flat surface, the Toros has insane torque and it gets the highest incline score out of any vehicle I have ever tested so far, a 10 out of 10. In stage 2 of the test, where it started at an angle position, a little wheel spin occurs and it gets a 7 out of 10. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 8.5 for the incline test. Next we have the dirt incline test. The Toros has a below average combination of off-road traction and torque and poor bumper clearance. Nonetheless, it still makes it to the top, which gives it a 10 out of 10. Dirt braking is excellent for the Toros at low speeds. It stops well before the markers and gets a 10 out of 10. However, I do want to mention at higher speeds, the brakes are one of the worst. Just something to bear in mind. Rock crawling for the Toros is interesting. Through all 3 obstacles, it bottoms out a total of 6 times, and it gets a 4 out of 10. In stage 2 of this test, which is subjectively scored, despite its ground clearance, it pulls pretty well and definitely surprised me. It gets a 7 out of 10. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 5.5 out of 10 for the rock crawling test. Powertrain is very good, definitely above average with very little traction loss, mainly from the driver's side rear wheel. Towards the end, where it becomes a little more difficult, you can see the passenger front wheel start to lose traction. That knocks it down to an 8 out of 10. Next up we have bumper clearance. This is definitely one of the Toros's weak points. It has below average bumper clearance. It scrapes 5 times total, which gives it a 5 out of 10. Suspension travel was average. The Toros has a decent bit of suspension travel, which is surprising for an SUV. According to the markers, it gets a not too shabby 5 out of 10. High-speed stability is by far the worst out of any vehicles I have ever tested here. Keep in mind, I've tested vehicles like the Kalahari and even pickup trucks here, and not even they did this poor. I had to do this test 3 times with the Toros. The first ever test, it deviated to the left and went flying about 10 feet up in the air. It gets the lowest score I have ever given for a vehicle here of a 2 out of 10. Next up we have the deep water testing. In stage 1, it almost makes it to the end, but dies right at marker number 9, which gives it a 9 out of 10. In stage 2, which is the deeper side, it shows some positive buoyancy traits towards the end, which allows it to hang on right up until marker number 7, which gives it a 7 out of 10. If we take both those scores, we get an average of 8 for the deep water test. And finally, we have the dirt acceleration test. This path is exactly a quarter mile long. Using the handbrake launch, it gets a very fast 12-second quarter mile, which gives it an 8 out of 10. Add it all together, and the off-road capability score is a very surprising 70 out of 100. That places it here in second place out of all the off-road capable SUVs category vehicles I've tested so far. That's not including off-roads. Now keep in mind this will change as I test more manufacturers and newer cars release. But all in all, it did surprisingly well, all things considering. Not bad for a street performance SUV if you really think about it. It struggles most notably in the high-speed stability testing, which really hurts its score. High-speed stability is one of the most essential components of off-roading. If Rockstar were to fix that, this would be an all-around good off-roader that I would highly recommend for high-speed off-roading. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a Lamborghini SUV taking a crappy GTA version of the Jeep Wrangler to school and showing it how it's done. All in all, it gets a good score, but until that high-speed stability issue is fixed, I do not recommend this vehicle for off-roading unless you want to set a world record for the most unstable bounces on dirt. Well, that's it guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, if you'd like to see the other videos on the other vehicles I have tested so far and how the Toros compares to the off-roads class, I will leave the link to the playlist down below, as well as a spreadsheet which will contain the most updated breakdown and scores for all of the vehicles in one place. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.